Welcome to another Thursday
Ooh.
night. This time I am off mute, but I've still messed up the episode title. This is Tech Charged episode 22. I will edit that. 21 was our last one. This is indeed episode 22. We are a year past legally able to drink. I remember that joke from the last episode. So
It's all starting to click now.
It is. I will edit that in post. Ignore the title. But yeah, I'm my brain is apparently still on vacation, but it's good to be back. How have you been, Mr. Jace?
Great, not too bad at all. Pretty good. Busy summer. It's been hot and it's been a great summer. Not a ton of rain. Like it's just been beautiful weather. A little hot sometimes, but it's been good. A little humid, Canadian wildfire smoke, but otherwise, great. It's Great Lakes in the summer there's nothing better. You get like 90 days of the most beautiful weather ever, and then the rest is pretty crap.
How's the humidity out there? Like in California, we really don't get a lot of humidity, so we don't get rain. We don't get any of that stuff. So what's
it really like comes in waves. Like some days it'll be super humid. We'll get some storms. It really just depends. But yeah, it's wavy.
Yeah, it was. I've spent the last 2 weeks in Europe, and the humidity wasn't too bad. I had a couple moments of rain, and it's still tough as a California kid to get used to the idea of summer rain. Because rain is really just a late fall, winter thing, and it comes with cold, and the idea of heat and rain at the same time is confusing for someone from California.
Yeah, here it's like if it gets really humid, like a storm's a brewing, sort of thing. So,
That's good.
It's a summer thunderstorm is fun. Let me tell you.
Yeah, so I guess you can kind of feel the oh man, it's starting to get muggy. Rain's coming.
Exactly. Yeah, it's fun. It's cool. I like it. It's Great Lakes is fun in the winter too with the snow belt and stuff, but I like the summer thunderstorms a lot.
Well, I don't know if Martin's going to have a chance to join us today. He is in the midst of rebuilding another F-150 Lightning. This one a nice red one, and I've seen some of what he's doing with it, and it's going to be exciting to see how that turns out. It's always fun to watch the things that he is rebuilding. This will be yet another really cool one, I think.
And I don't know about you. You see a lot of Rapid Reds. I don't.
No, it's when I was looking for
gray.
When I was looking for a replacement, there was one in Arizona that I was actually looking at. And then right before I got home, it was on my list of things to after the buyback was complete. But it got sold before the buyback. But one of the things that drew me to it was it is such a unique color. The red. It looks really good, but it's not very common. So yeah, I think that'll be cool. And those lariats especially, man, they just are so packed and have all the different features that you want. So I just love when you can get a nice red. I actually, man, the blue is another good color to me. Like that first year, was it first and second year, I guess, 22, 23? Atlas blue.
I don't know. I think it might have been 22 only. I think Brandon Flash says it was 22 only. I'm not exactly sure, but they had smoked quartz too. I don't know if you remember smoked quartz.
Yeah,
that was an original, like an OG color, and we wanted smoked quartz bad, and we just it ended before even the model year run ended, so we weren't able to get it.
Lots of whites, lots of browns, lots of grays. So I always enjoy when there's a different color out there. And of course, I was drawn to black, and I know you've had the black and now you've got the what's that? The blue where it looks black.
Antimatter blue. Yep.
Oh, there's Martin chiming in.
Yeah, he's awesome. So he might be hopping on here soon. So
painting the primer, man.
Yeah, wow.
I think if I had to repaint, I might go with I might take the opportunity to go with something either outlandish or the matte. I've always liked matte for whatever reason.
The matte is so fun. I think it looks so good on the Lightning when you see the wraps with the matte. Big Mike has one. There's a couple. There's a couple guys that we've seen that, and the platinum black for RIP.
Yeah, for sure.
We saw one. I think you were there. I think we saw one in person. One of one.
Yeah. The only Ford went and did the all black wrap, but it was weird because some of the parts were still gloss. Like it was
Yeah,
hard to
and I
grasp.
think right were still glossy. There were a couple of the door handles, and yeah, it was interesting.
I considered having a matte PPF put on mine, but there
Yeah.
wasn't a good way to do the platinum grill. That grill is,
Mm,
it's got that gloss on there.
yep.
And so they're just the person that I was talking to just didn't have faith that they'd be able to
Adhere.
PPF. Yeah. So I just thought, man, if that's going to look goofy to have this big glossy grill, you could take it off, you
Yeah.
could paint it, but now you're just going down a whole rabbit hole, and I'm
Yep.
trying to avoid that. Uh,
Yep. Nope. I don't blame you. I do love the platinum grill. I do have one little nick on it already, and I'm kind of
do
sad
you?
about it, but yeah, but
Iced?
you
I don't
can't.
remember the iced blue silver metallic. I
It was
gotta,
cool. I that might have been a 22 only color as well. Not exactly sure. But that one was, I believe, on Mach-E they had that color as well, and it was cool. It was like a literally an I'd get like a Frozen, like
yeah,
Frozen,
yeah,
the
yeah,
movie. That's like the color. It was kind of effervescent too. It was cool.
yeah. The Mach E has some of the greatest colors, man. The
Hands down.
green, the
I saw a
yellow.
green one today, GT. It didn't have the bronze package, but it was just the step below that, and it looked amazing.
Yeah, I think the Mach-E colors, and then on the Tesla side, have you seen the Tesla red, that really dark, the
Yeah,
new
what do they
red?
call that? The triple something. Yeah, that looks really, really good. And
Yeah,
Quicksilver. I like Quicksilver a lot.
Quicksilver's another good one, man. They're underappreciated when they come up with good colors like that. I'll be interested
Yep.
to see what Rivian does with R2. They typically have some good colors on first year that are, the Compass yellow, that
Yeah.
green. Those were
Launch
some,
green. That was
yeah.
great. Launch green was awesome. I agree. I love that color.
Yeah, there's just something about being able when you got that unique color and you just look back at it and you just feel like, yeah, that's a good look.
Yep. I agree. I like the
So
Animatic Blue. I'm telling you, I've really fallen in love with it. And I tweeted about it the other day. It's so fun to look at. Like you see it in the sun and boom, but then you see it in the rain or the, dark, and it doesn't look like, it looks black. It's a really, really, really fun color. I'm glad I did it.
yeah, if it's overcast or a lot of pictures just don't do justice to the antimatter blue. You've got it, like
Yeah.
you said, you got to hit it in the sun just right. It's
Yep.
it's rare
It's
for a
cool.
camera image to capture it well.
It is. It's true. Yeah. On you can kind of like see it on the Ford build and price. If you look at their pictures, they really like enhance it. But in IRL, it doesn't quite do that unless you've got the sun.
Yeah. So which direction should we kick it off with, man? We've got the
There's a lot to
audience
talk about.
tends. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. Good stuff. We're gonna touch on lots of Ford stuff in the works, and a lot of it's
Yeah.
kind of speculation. And Ford is always tight-lipped about that stuff. And
Mhm.
man, where do we want to begin? You think?
What would let's see what makes sense. So I guess
Should we
let's
start with
talk
Skunkworks? Because
Skunk Works.
that's
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
yeah.
Um,
So we've
yeah.
we've heard
Go
about
ahead.
them for a while. That we've got there's a team out here near myself in the Palo Alto Bay Area that does a lot of the software stuff. And that's at the Greenfield Labs. But then they've been doing this Skunk Works down in Irvine for the last couple years, year and a half, two
Yeah, at
years.
least. Yep.
And they had done some stuff, signed something for Long Beach, but nobody really knew where it was. And then our friends Patrick and Liv, Maki Vlog,
Yeah.
kind of put some pieces together and did a little picture, and nothing was really
Mhm.
official. Then one day, finally, Jake kind of like dropped the thing from Ford where it's, oh, that was that's
Yeah.
the new Skunk Works building in Long Beach that's opening.
Yep.
So much rumored and much anticipated, and now they've actually got a physical building, two buildings, I believe, right?
Yeah, and it's kind of cool too that Ford has chosen to kind of use their from the road site to kind of drop all of this news now. And it's neat. It's a good, way directly from the source to get that information. And so if you're a Ford fan, and you're looking for news, follow that from the road site because you can find out a lot. That is also, by the way, where they're going to be streaming the August 11th event as well. Will be from the road site. So,
Yeah,
um,
so not a ton of news came out of the Skunkworks thing other than to say, hey, we've got a building built. Um,
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think you can put a lot of the pieces together, though. Like for those that are out there that are unaware of the Skunkworks team and kind of how it came to be, Doug Field came over from technically Apple is where he came from to Ford. He basically was running the Apple car program, whatever that was, and obviously we know Doug from basically. Pioneering the Model 3, right? He was, I think technically was he lead engineer or right up there on the Model 3 program and helped it, become what it is today, right? And kept it alive during those, tedious, crazy days there in the beginning. So Doug has transformed the company. He's kind of gone, a little quiet, I think. At first, we saw Doug and the team out in public a lot. But we've and this is kind of why I say there's so much to talk about tonight, because it's sort of this lots of layers, lots of nuance to it. Lots of changes, pivoting, as we've talked about before. There's been a lot of pivots, but really it's a lot of it's because of where we are demand wise, right? It's not just Ford's not just doing this because they want to do this, right? They thought they'd sell a lot more Lightnings than they did. I think we all did at those moments, So there's a lot of layers to this, but Ford went out with the Mach-E and the Lightning. They were small teams, small budgets. Ford said that from the beginning, comparative to what is kind of coming next. And they launched great products. I think they actually kind of overshot maybe where even they thought they would be as far as how good the products were. With such a small team and such a small budget. I don't know if you would agree with that, Chris, especially the Lightning. I think they really and Mach-E too. I mean, it's great with sales, but the Lightning with the utility and, I think Lightning owners are so passionate about their trucks.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting really to look back, and I don't think when it first launched, I even appreciated how great the Lightning is and holds up. I know there's a lot of things that it's not on the bleeding edge of some of the software stuff, but just in terms of looking back now, all these years later at the way the battery degradation, it really hasn't been a problem. The way the charge curve is very consistent and they've improved upon it. I think one of the big things that I see repeatedly is, and I just experienced this with my trip. I was gone for 2 weeks in Europe and just absolutely no phantom drain. Came back to the same state of charge that I left with. And so often for different reasons, right? The Rivians and the Teslas, they have a lot of phantom drain. Now there's, there are no Sentry modes. There are a lot of different reasons that the Ford doesn't do that, but sometimes simple is nice. And that consistency of the charge curve is nice. And the way that the battery degrade or lack of degrading, I've seen numerous posts about batteries, having substantial degradation.
And that appears to be similar with the Mach-E. And I've seen the same with the E-Transit. So across the board, Ford EVs do really seem to be great with degradation. Now, some people say, oh, well, there's a buffer and it'll eat into it. I've never seen proof of that, to be completely honest. So until somebody can show me proof, I'm not sure if that's the case. I know we do know there's like approximately, especially with Lightning, a 10% buffer, but I've never seen any data to show that they're eating into that buffer to, keep the state of health the same. So
even if they are, I don't care. If that's
and that's what a lot of people have kind of said, it doesn't really matter, right? Like to the end consumer, hey, as long as if we're getting stated range after 2-3 years, that's great.
Yeah. So there's been a lot there to appreciate. And I think, Doug, one of the things that I just enjoy about some of the podcasts and things is hearing the insight from Doug. And every time he's on, he and Jim both just have such incredible insight.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he talked about was just the culture of engineering. And he was the vice president of engineering for Tesla. And one of the big wins for getting a guy like that is the team that he builds around him. And so much of the reason why these places are centered where they are, the Bay Area being software engineers, in that kind of Irvine, Long Beach, Southern California area being a lot of hardware engineers. Caltech is down there. You tend to coalesce your incredible talent in certain areas. Detroit, of course, because of the big three. There's, a lot of different manufacturing that's done in Detroit. But when you're talking about software and hardware engineers, California is where a lot of those guys are. So when you get a guy like Doug, you get a lot of the people that want to work with Doug, and you get a couple of those key players, and you get some important engineers. So, okay, great. We've got the Skunkworks team. They're kind of separate from Detroit. They've got some good leadership and a good core there. They've obviously had to adjust in some ways to the Ford way in terms of where we've got third-party modules and all these different things where they're trying to take the best of, I think, the way that Tesla and Rivian do things with their stacks, and they're trying to take the legacy and the Ford current state, which and they've, to your point, right? They've thought they would be doing hundreds of thousands of Lightnings and Mach-E's, and we'd have probably an Explorer by now. We probably thought there was a whole group of things that were going to happen, and then it just didn't. And politically, and all these different supply chain and COVID and all these other different reasons all combined have all created a place now where Ford has had to rethink everything, and they're going to pivot to these, for now anyway, the cheaper EVs. There's going to be a delay for a little bit on T3 that you posted about, and we can talk about that. And it's just, now they're looking at, okay, we're going to have multiple powertrains. What can work for all of them? We've already seen, where some of the Ford infotainment has gone across into the gas vehicles now and is looking similar to what we've seen. It's going to be that on steroids, I think, at the next level. But share your thoughts on that and what you learned about T3's delay.
Well, and going back real quick to Doug is not only bringing changes to Model E, Doug is also bringing changes to Ford Blue, and I think that's really important too. And you're starting to see it. He had a Capital Markets Day Ford did in 2023, and Doug did a breakout session in that, and he talked about how they really want to only limit all vehicles within Ford to 3 different infotainment setups, and that's all there would be. That was not the case, for years and years and years at Ford. People would pick and choose. Sometimes things like, the F-150 and Expedition might, cross over a little bit. But, for the vast majority, things were kind of willy-nilly all over the place. And you're starting to really see with Ford's latest products and the software as well, that consistency. We're seeing, like, with the Expedition, it's all very similar. You just might not go coast to coast. They have the same basically as the Navigator, but, it doesn't go all the way to coast, that display. So it goes, halfway. So, but it's all the same, as far as, suppliers and what they can use. And like you said, they're trying to, Ford almost was going to go all the way, I think with the zonal architecture, and they kind of decided not to. It's still zonal, but it's not truly zonal in the way that Rivian and Tesla go about it. But you are still having, to my understanding, sort of a partial zonal architecture with still maybe centralized chip, and then sort of a family of modules off of that. But I think we will see like Ford go with more powerful chips comparative to what they have now. But will it be like the Rivian Tesla version of that? Not quite. Sort of a half version, something like you said, Chris, that kind of works for them and keeps the supplier network happy, while also, kind of meeting their goals. And Doug said, he came out with a long article and said, this is what we're going to do. And this is sort of, like you said, they have to sort of work within Ford, right? Ford has certain parameters as well for pros and cons, right? We've, with Lightning, it's the reason why we don't have a lot of battery degradation and why we have a consistent charge curve. And those things are because it was built Ford tough. They truly take that into consideration. I remember an engineer telling me in the early days of Lightning, like we signed off on it being charged to 100% every day. We recommend 90, but we signed off on 100 because, they have that 10% buffer. So,
which is probably how that went too. They're like, all right, you want it charged to 100. We're just going to add a buffer.
Yep, exactly. And for better or for worse, right? Like it's in the end, I think for the customer, it works out better for the most part, right? On a lot of these things. But yeah, and like you said, it's not the most cutting edge, and all that jazz. So then we saw this whole change with the market, right? And so now we're getting into this point where Ford had to make a decision. Okay, we're losing so much money on Lightning. We're losing so much money on Model E. It didn't happen the way that we thought it was going to happen. We need to pivot, and they pivoted to Skunkworks, and we sort of saw this flip flop, right? We thought T3 was going to launch first. We thought really the 3-row was going to launch first. That was the product that would have launched first for the next gen, EVs. But then we saw Ford it's we can't keep losing $5 billion a year, or $5 billion a quarter in some cases. I think it was bad, right, for a little bit, and so they had to pivot, and they decided to flip flop them and make Skunkworks now what's coming next. And so what we should see, I don't think we'll see it on August 11th, and I think we might see a little teaser of maybe what's coming, but we knew that things got delayed, right? Like there's multiple times now, not just with Skunkworks, but with T3, with the 3-row obviously being canceled. The plants have been, slowed down. We knew that the plants are finished. So there's no way, in my opinion, that Ford can show a product when the plants aren't finished yet. Unless something changed with the timeline, which I know that it hasn't. There's no way, just feasibility wise, it hasn't jumped up. So I think what we're going to see is a lot of manufacturing and strategic updates coming, for this week. And yeah, I think that's kind of where we are right now. We're right at the tip, right where things start to kind of unleash. The information is going to start to roll out. I think we're really going to get some more details on what this platform is. They've said it's going to be, Jim said super affordable recently, quoted as super affordable. So that's, I don't know, that's 25K to me ish, 30K.
Yeah. And I've been hesitant about the 25K. I've seen the 25K thrown out there. I think, and it's hard because Ford is not transparent and they hold everything so close to the vest that you end up having to speculate a lot. And yeah, you kind of take all these different things into account. You take the quarterly earnings calls, you take, things that were on automotive news websites, and you're like, and those people are using contacts that are in the supply chain, and there's so much that goes into it. And I'll even listen to things like Sandy Monroe, and he'll talk about things like things that are seemingly not related, but as somebody that's never been part of the auto industry, it helps give me perspective, because he'll talk about things like Rivian, and he'll say, hey, the original R1, we helped Rivian get that more efficient, but there was only so much we can do because the developmental cost that it takes to engineer from the ground up a platform is billions of dollars. And, and you hear someone like Sandy Monroe talk about what that takes. And then he would talk about Slate. He would talk about how remarkable Slate was because they spent less than $1 billion to engineer their platform, and how unheard of that is in automotive. And you start running around numbers like billions, you start to understand why Ford lost billions of dollars when you're creating platforms and having to come through with Kentucky battery plants and Blue Oval. And then you throw in that, Jim's aspirations. And I would joke sometimes that, hey, the CFO has now entered the chat, and the auto unions, if you remember when we were all in Detroit, there were the auto unions got involved. And I'm pretty sure, I'm not sure if I'm misremembering here, but I'm pretty sure that the Kentucky plant was part of those negotiations, part of that transition to EV, that there would be certain amount of jobs with battery production, certain amount of jobs with the transformation of Kentucky. That's why
same with the Marshall plant, I believe, in Michigan as well. That was all bargaining chips, essentially. And with GM as well, same.
Yep. Yeah. And so I think all of this stuff, all of it comes into play. It's the reality. These things cost billions of dollars to ramp up. People always conflate. There's a constant conflation of things that are not true. Like people constantly say, Ford is losing X amounts of hundreds of thousands per vehicle sold, without accounting for the fact of the developmental cost, the Skunkworks cost, the building out of things
the
in
plants,
Long Beach,
that are being built that aren't making any money. They're money furnaces until something gets produced inside them, and even then, it's going to sell profitably. So that's, and even talking, like, I don't know about GM, but I've literally had conversations with Bill Ford, and he is like as EV environmentalist as you can get. This man wants EVs to succeed. He is, Ford is a family business, and he's at the top, and he wants EVs. He's thrown billions. He's allowed Ford to do this. So it hasn't kind of worked out to what they expected, obviously, or a lot of us expected. But as we've kind of discussed, there's a lot of reasons that go into it, and also politics. We don't have to get into that, but everybody kind of knows what's coming to with the 7,500 going away. The solar credit going away. There's so many. I think the EV charger home credit is going. And there's so many things that are going to be changing here. And that's why I think, again, Ford has now pivoted, right? So now we're looking at Skunkworks team. We're looking at 30,000, maybe below that, EVs. First will be a midsize truck. I expect maybe something like, I don't know, maybe between Maverick and Ranger. I think Maverick's a little bit tiny for, your flagship, new EV truck. People have options when it comes to ICE. They have Ranger, they have Maverick, they have F-150, they have F-250. I think we could see like a tweener sort of vehicle between Maverick and Ranger. I think that would be great. I think maybe a little bit of towing on it. Maverick is a little light when it comes to towing, so that is what everybody expects to come first. That's going to be Ford's first next gen EV. It will be that, and Jim was quoted as saying the next will be a mid-size SUV, and I expect that to be something a la maybe Bronco Sport, or maybe they would go more like Ford Edge electrified, or maybe even Ford Escape. So it'll be interesting to see kind of what direction they go with that. Do they go kind of boxy like Bronco Sport, or they go kind of the teardrop shape like Escape, and so it's gonna be really interesting. I'm fascinated to see what we see on this coming August 11th. I don't know, man. It's gonna be so crazy.
Yeah,
no level 3, they've said, so that's something interesting too. They're going. I don't know if that means Blue Cruise is coming, or if that means what exactly they'll launch with. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. LFP, we know for sure.
Did they say no? They said no level 3 autonomy for the new. I
for these Skunkworks super affordable. Yes, no level 3. Now that doesn't mean no level 2, right? So it's still, we could still see Blue Cruise. We could still see whatever else. But that shows you that Ford's bet is that level 3 is not ready for prime time. In my opinion, and not on top of keeping costs low. So they may have a level 3 option. I don't want to say Ford doesn't think level 3 is not ready. That's not really what I should say, but that it's not ready for prime time for the super affordable, cheap vehicles, and probably for the foreseeable future for most vehicles.
Well, it's a challenge because I look at
profitably too. You got to, that's the key. Like Ford's looking for profitable businesses right now.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe they'd throw the LiDAR in there, kind of have it future proof. But then I as you talk about it, and I reflect on it, and I think about the brands that are trying to do that haven't been successful. Like one of the complaints is, like for example, the Rivian, the original Rivians can't do all of what the refresh Rivians can do, and it's been said that even that will be less capable than the R2, which will be a much cheaper platform. You look at Tesla, a couple different examples where a bunch of people bought hardware 3 thinking that would be FSD capable, and now there's a whole mess where it's not. And
we know how Ford is. That's not Ford. That's just not how they do things. So.
And even with Grok, the Grok X thing, right? That even if you have the AMD chip, it works. If you have the Intel chip, it doesn't. Even going back to Martin's rebuild of the Model S, where it had, what was that, G something 1 versus 2? What was that?
Yeah,
MCU.
MCU, yeah, 1 versus 2, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's Teslas have been able to upgrade to have CCS when they didn't used to have them, and Ford doesn't do any of that stuff, man. Ford's going to be like, oh, you have Sync 4, that's it, man. Good luck.
Yeah.
That's it. They're gonna. So I think you're right. I don't think they're gonna want to put something in that may not be ready until 28, 29, even 30, and they're not going to go back and retrofit it, and they're just going to move on to the next.
And I think that tells you again sort of what price point that they're really trying to aim for here. I think Jim saying super affordable is really telling to me that they're aiming for Slate level pricing. I mean, the way that I see it, I don't know how they do it. I don't know. I think we're going to see some castings. I think Ford's definitely going to get into the casting, business. I think we're going to see maybe mega casts from Ford, like, giga casts. I really do believe that. But,
so let's
how do they get the pricing that low? I don't know.
Let's play Guess Your Ford, right? Like, I think giga casting, right, it's supposed to save money. Yeah. LFP is a given, right? You can't have affordable without LFP. Speaking of the money that we talked about, all this billion, you got to pay for that IP. That's CATL's IP that you had to license. You had to build out those factories.
GM just licensed CATL today. They're gonna get CATL batteries. People thought they were gonna build them in-house LFP, but they apparently for the next few years, especially I think for the new Bolt, they need them now. And so they're gonna get those from CATL. Is that going to be tariff then? And it's I guess since the tax credit goes away, it doesn't really matter for your battery sourcing anymore too, right?
Who the hell knows? There's so many carve outs, and what was a tariff today isn't a tariff tomorrow, much less in 26 or 27.
But I doubt that tariff is probably more than what the tax credit was, and that means you don't have to meet those sourcing requirements anymore. Then the profit might, the margins might work out comparatively.
Yeah, and even Rivian with R2 has talked about they're going to have to use LG batteries to start, and then they'll eventually have their own. They're all trying to
Georgia,
find this,
right? Isn't that where they're doing there? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I do think Ford is ahead when it comes to getting the LFP. We've talked before, like Tesla has some LFP, but that's really focused on the energy, the power walls in the mega packs.
And so Jim, and there's another. So Jim has mentioned this too, that he's mentioned how GM is kind of ahead of Ford right now, right? They've kind of jumped ahead, but then his thoughts were that Ford was then going to jump ahead of GM because their stuff is out now. Ford's is going to be a little bit more technologically advanced, using LFP. Ultium has never used to this day yet an LFP battery. For those that don't know, the first one should be Bolt. It will be Bolt. So there's the new Bolt, I should say. So it's, that's one piece of it. Then you just mentioned like battery storage and all the energy, that's Ford's looking to get into that business too, because they've built these battery plants that they just don't see they're going to use it all. They're not going to be able to use all these plants. And so one of them, they reached out to Nissan and made a deal with them, and they took over a little bit of it. I think we'll see more deals like that happen. And I think, we'll see maybe Ford look at partners like Redwood Materials. GM actually partnered with them. So how GM and Ford love to do stuff in lockstep.
So weird, right? Like, I always wonder, do they have like moles inside of each other's companies? Like, we're doing LFP. So are we.
Have you ever watched the series Cars, or I think it was called Cars or Cars of America or something? You got to watch it. It was fascinating. It wasn't out that long ago, like a year or so ago, and it went through all the history of the Dodge brothers and GM and Ford.
Oh, I have seen that.
Yeah, it was good. It was really, really good. But yeah, so I mean, now Ford's kind of trying to pivot, as we can see. Let's see what else. He said urban. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. It's going to be interesting. They did say that. So, I mean, you're talking maybe even smaller than maybe is Maverick size sort of, but I don't know, man.
I tell you what, man, it's I'm always cautious. Maybe what they produce isn't going to be something that excites me, but it really makes the movement come forward. And maybe when they talk about we're gonna focus on commercial in a weird way, although I'm not a commercial customer directly. Maybe the commercial
Right.
vehicle is more what I want, like the future T3. They're going to be able to sell these, the next version of E-Transit is going to be big. The T3 presumably will be not cheap.
So let's talk about that real quick. So
Yeah.
so today's news was that T3 was delayed again. T3, and I looked all this up because it's hard to remember it all, but T3 was initially, I believe, slated for 2025. That's basically what we thought was in 2022, was around 2025, gonna 2026, we would see T3. That has obviously not been the case. It got pushed back to 2026. I think they even might have skipped 26 and just pushed it back to 27. And then the third sort of update cadence was, okay, it would be second half of 2027. And then now the latest update today, which we kind of, I think I remember us kind of musing about that before, that we thought it was quite possible that we would see that get further delayed to 2028. And that is what happened today. So I think second half of 2027, you might as well just say 2028, right? So yeah. I think that's where we are now. And again, these plants are being built as we speak. I will say Blue Oval is looking great. I don't know how, if they're kind of, I think this is part of it. They're kind of just pushing things back. They need to get the LFP plants going. I think they want to get Skunkworks going so they can kind of take those learnings from, do the potential castings that may be coming. Do those work? Does the manufacturing process for those work? Ford doesn't want a bunch of, sort of one of the downturns to castings is that you can have a lot of waste. Tesla has seen that. We've seen drone footage of just piles and piles of, bad castings, so to speak. Ford, I think, will try to really, turn those down a little bit. I don't think they want that level of waste. Maybe Tesla, I know Tesla has created their own allies and stuff. So we may see Ford do some of that stuff as well. It's gonna be fascinating. So anyway, T3 was delayed from basically second half of 2027 to 2028, as well as the EV van, the next gen E-Transit, essentially. That was delayed, which was actually 2 years. So that was 2026 to 2028. So we will not see that until 2028. And that's actually being built at Ohio Assembly, which is about 40 minutes down the road from me here in Avon, Ohio. So it's actually literally right next door to where I bought my latest Platinum. I bought my Platinum right there next to the plant.
Yeah, and Longstone pointing out for the commercial fleet, LFP makes a lot of sense, which it does. Yeah, I think very smart for them to partner with CATL. I know from the trip that I just did, every time I'm turning around, there were so many electric vans that are like the E-Transit. Saw lots of E-Transits, by the way, too.
Yeah.
But so many ID Buzz that were commercial, being used for commercial. And I was learning about different license plates would mean that it was an electric. Different license plates also would mean that it was commercial, meaning that like if the Ford Lightning was had the back seats removed, it got a different license plate because it was commercial.
That was, and don't EVs have a different license plate in general, right? Yeah,
they start with the letter E. They start with the letter E, and then there's a different color plus the letter E if it's a commercial. And so the back seats would be removed, or the Buzz would be transformed to be a commercial van. I saw a bunch of Mercedes Sprinters. I saw, God, what was the one that I saw that I didn't even know they were making? I can't even remember it now. I'm drawing a blank on it, but I want to say Toyota or somebody. I was like, what? They have an EV van? And there was a bunch of these things I had never seen before. A ton of commercial trucks and stuff driving around that were electric. And so I think Ford also has to think about the worldwide, ability to sell, because they're a global company. Not that Tesla isn't, of course they are, but Ford makes a ton of money on Blue and on the software side and on Pro.
Yeah.
And so these things are important for them to get it right. And I think if maybe kind of almost experimenting with the small ones, if you're going to have waste, you're going to try to figure it out. Maybe you're not trying to figure it out on T3. You're not trying to figure it out on maybe that first gen.
That's exactly why I think we saw the T3 delay. And I agree with the latest comment here that I'm not sure Ford wants LFP for T3. Does that make sense?
No, I think that would be NMSE.
Yeah, NTM, or even that new, one
The
that we
Rich.
saw, manganese, that GM, released the same breakthrough, 2 weeks later. Even semi-solid state. Do we start to see like LMR? Yes, thank you. Do we start to see like semi-solid state? I don't know. But I agree. We need some battery something to happen, because I don't see LFP being used for T3, and I think that's another reason why we saw the delay. And like you said, Chris, to take those learnings and apply it to T3, I think T3 was pretty far along, and I think now T3 has kind of been pushed back in its sort of cycle here, and they're gonna really look to try to put the learnings from the new Skunkworks stuff towards T3. Hi, Martin.
Hey,
Martin Meek joining the show. How's the truck coming along, man?
What a deadline. Yeah, I got it in. I just got through shooting primer, so sorry if I'm late and then crashing the party here.
No worries.
No, it's good. Let the primer dry. I had not heard about this, Chase. Did you hear about solid state and a tie-in with Ford? I had not heard about that.
Yeah, so Ford has actually worked, I think, with a few different companies. One of them, though, the one that I like, and I actually own, full disclosure, own a few shares and have for many years, is Solid Power. They've also worked with BMW. Many other companies. Solid Power's been on a huge run actually recently. I know I don't see anything on the horizon per se. When I've looked up why they're kind of really shooting up like they are, but they've worked with Ford and BMW and a lot of other companies, but there's some others too that are really starting to, especially in China. I don't see, that's the thing. I don't know if we're going to see like solid state stuff make its way over here, if China's really going to try to keep that proprietary to them. That's going to be fascinating, because that could change everything for a product like T3.
Yeah, I'm curious when it comes to what they do with the balance between an affordable platform and because they've talked about it's going to be a Model T kind of moment that does speak to affordability,
right?
I'm trying
manufacturing too.
Yeah, is there some kind of unique manufacturing process they're going to use?
That's why I say we think castings. I could see being a big one. We've seen rumors. There's been smoke that Ford signed a deal with IRD. I don't know, the lead casting company in the world. Yes, they signed a deal with them. I think it's like an Italian company or something like that. I think Tesla has worked with them previously. Ford signed, some, memorandum of understanding with them. I'm not sure if that ever went anywhere and if they actually got the equipment. I believe they were building a gigacast for Ford. And like, we know that, we could see a proprietary alloy come out of that. Maybe the process itself, maybe all of it, combined. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's the anticipation is so tough, because I hope they know what they're doing when they set that kind of expectation, because I do feel like they have to roll out that, we've got this agreement with these mega casts. We're going to do however it might be, right? Is it going to be, are they going to do that Tesla thing where they do some kind of battery? Is the battery going to be part of
structural
battery pack? How do you feel about this? I feel like it has to be 800 volts. If you're going to do LFP batteries, I feel like it has to be 800 volts. It has to be fast charging, but then that's more expensive. But man, you can't really roll out a 400 volt platform, can you? You've got to do something exciting.
I would think that they've thought about this. I would think that Doug is on top of this, but I think they'll make the right decision for them, if that makes sense, and for what they see the market being when these vehicles go on sale. I agree with you. I think that needs to be done, but if there's one thing I know about Ford, and I've said this time and time again, if I've thought about it once, they've thought about it 5 million different times in 5 million different ways, and with a lot more money, you know. And
there's a part of me that
yeah.
really thinks that the EV community, the dorks among us, are going to be severely disappointed, and
yeah,
that's not the market. I think the
Chris,
market is
800
Joe,
volts
my next
is
door
not,
neighbor.
800 volts is not all there is. I understand in the Lightning, if you build another Lightning, whatever the name is, and you don't make it 800 volts, you're going to hurt the market. But if you build a Bronco, a Ranger with a 65, 75, 85 kilowatt battery, you don't need it. I charged that Tesla Model S with a 400 volt system 20 to 25 minutes every time. You just don't need it.
Well, look at Equinox. Equinox is just selling like bangers, and you're talking. It's relatively similar curve to Lightning, obviously just a smaller battery, but it shoots to 150.
We get really, really focused on DC fast charging. A lot of these cars never get DC fast charge.
These will be second cars, third vehicles, fleet vehicles that are getting charged AC overnight. I completely agree with you, Martin.
I don't think it's going to be fast charging. I don't think it's going to be how fast the car is. I think it's going to boil down to money. I think that is going to be, that's the reason why Ford and Silverado and Cybertruck can't sell. They're too damned expensive.
Yep. And so look at Equinox. It's crazy. I mean, I just tweeted like 2 days ago, I see one every day. That day I went out, we drove to volleyballs, 20-minute drive. I saw 3. Today I went out, I saw 3. I'm like, these things are taking over the world. They are just, and you see it in the sales. It just broke last month for July, the best-selling non-Tesla ever.
They are number 2. The GM is now number 2, and it's not close. And that's not, you're not even counting.
And that vehicle is the reason, literally.
You're not even counting the Honda Prologue at this point.
Yeah, true. That's another one that's actually, selling like hotcakes too.
Yeah, I've kind of held my emotions in check about being too excited, because I don't think they're targeting the 4 of us. I don't think they're targeting the folks on X that want to see. And I think the thing that's tough is that everybody keeps talking about, well, Jim's been to China, Jim's seen what this and that is. And so it makes you think, well, he's going to want to bring out a Chinese type vehicle that has, steer. And they just had something where they had a steer by wire job posting.
Yeah, by Rivian.
Oh, no, that was Rivian. Yeah, Rivian was doing that. So the future seems to be steer by wire, 48 volts, 48 volts for the small stuff, 800 volts for packs. 400 kilowatt charging is what the Gravity's doing. You've got Alpatronic out there. You got, Tesla version 4 cabinets coming that are gigawatt capable.
Well, and it's funny though, because you're saying, it's a funny conversation and question, right? Like Ford is saying super affordable, right? But
gotta be.
They're also saying that the technology is better than what GM currently has out now. So if that's the case, then wouldn't that lean towards, a NAC skateboard 800 volt system? Do you know what? But then again, we're talking super affordable. So and LFP.
Well, so 800 volt doesn't necessarily mean it has to be expensive. All you've got to do is combine the cells in such a way that they're higher voltage per cell, that you can series those together to get yourself to 800 volts. I mean, you look at some of those cars overseas, they're 800 volt charging cars up to a megawatt. But it, we look at the ID4 and the charge curve of the Volkswagen ID4. That car charges pretty fast. I don't think that car's 800 volt.
I don't think no, not volt. The 8. No. What's the ID4 charge at? I didn't know it charged fast. 200
and something.
Huh.
Kilowatts. I can't quote it. I'm sure somebody can quote it, but it's pretty fast. But if you really, I think there's a subset of people that's always going to want what we want. And the market has shown how many GMCs have sold, how many Cybertrucks have sold, how many Lightnings have sold. They're going to have that market. But if you look at how many Super Duties versus Power Boosts versus F-150s that have sold at that higher price level, you're right, Chris. They do have to perform. I think if the GMC was $69,995 retail, it would have been hard to go buy a new Duramax when that's an option for me. you know, and I didn't buy a Duramax. I'm not trying to say I did. I'm saying that the new Power Boost is like 71,000, right? For a new Power Boost, which is a pretty good starter for a lot of people who don't know anything about electric or don't even know. I have a guy at work that's been in my life twice with me to Canada. He wants to buy a Power Boost because he likes the idea of having the power there, but he in no way is going to put his wife in the car and drive to, you know, Louisiana and stop 45 minutes every 3 hours. They're not going to do that. So for me, I that's why I think, I don't know if you guys talked about it before I got on. That's the reason why I am going to continue to build Lightnings, because of cost. I'm selling these trucks for like 35 grand now. I mean, they're affordable now on the used market. In my rebuilt title market, that I can sell them to people who don't feel like they're spending their life savings, and it's just a little more than they would have spent on an F-150 and a couple years older. I mean, these 21 and 2 and 3 F-150s in my market are bringing 25 grand. So for 35, you can get a Lightning. But again, it has to be that next range. And the GMC, it has its issues. We all know that. 25s and 26s are better. But 800 volt charging and a 200 and some kilowatt battery means you can drive 6 hours. You can plan your stops better. You can figure out when you go. And for me, the number one reason is I can tow. And I can tow far and not feel like we're stopping every hour.
Long Snow bringing the strength tonight.
I know.
Man.
So that's another whole like thing to add in there, right? And you know, I don't think we see. So first of all, let's say we won't see EREV on a tiny vehicle, right? We're not going to see EREV on these Skunkworks vehicles. We've already heard that the Skunkworks platform will be capable of supporting 8 different vehicles. So we know off the bat. Yeah, exactly. So we know off the bat that those are of a certain size. We're not going to see EREV there. Now,
and just real quick, I just want to read this because not everybody's gonna be watching necessarily on YouTube for the or on X, but for those that when they post this on the podcast channels, Long Snow's talking about they have to make room for EREV. I think that's part of the T3 2028 type stuff where you start looking at the different drivetrains, right? They're going to still have the gas diesel drivetrains. They're going to have an EREV drivetrain, BEV drivetrain. Probably have to engineer this stuff and need more time for all that. Need to prove out.
One thing we've also heard that kind of goes into this same vein is the next gen F-150 was also delayed. The ICE next gen F-150 was delayed a year. So we don't really know how F-150 related the T3 is going to be. Like Lightning is. Obviously, Lightning is very related to F-150, right? It looks exactly the same, a little bit more aero, but you're talking really damn close.
The same. I'm building one right now. It's all F-150.
Yeah, it's an F-150.
Towing, the EREV is the answer for the towing, and short of solid state breakthroughs, which would come to China first and would scale up and take well into 2030s. I think the short term solution is staying on track with exactly what they're doing today, and then introducing the affordable stuff to scale and to make money on. EREV is the next step for towing. It's what Martin was trying to build.
I wouldn't say that absolutely. I mean, because there are things that that has to be considered when you're talking about that. So I think it's like, how much are you going to tow? Are you the guy that takes your boat to the lake 3 times a week, 2 hours away?
And we know what the data shows too. You don't want to haul
around that gas engine.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're Americans, Martin. We want to know.
But that's the funny part is that's that question of, you know, and we get into this conversation where I see people who are like, oh, I need a big ass battery, right? Like I got to have one. And I'm like, well, right. But if we have that we go back to that original conversation about being an EV driver, you don't need as much range, right? Because you plug in every night overnight, you don't have to go to the gas station, so that's like the trade-off, right?
I think it'd be great. Chevy kind of sort of did that. I mean, they have a smaller battery. It's not as small as the Lightning, and then a great big battery. I think it's 180, and it's still great big. But you can pick up the 4WT or the 8WT now, 3WT, which was I think the 5 now, in the 50s for a work truck.
Launch that was not the case, but
but now they're, and I'm like, okay. Now you're starting to get to where guys would consider that. I know Patrick, who's been on here several times, is driving an LT now. He got it for like under 50. I mean, he got a steal, but that's a rarity. kind of like Jace, your price on your truck. I mean, that's a rarity. You don't get platinums like that. But
yeah.
So if you can pick up those trucks in that price range, I think now these guys are looking at that as it's a business decision. You know,
Yeah.
He's driving 250, 300 miles one way a day. The Lightning made him stop along the way, where his LT, and it's not even, he got a not the max range, the next one down, allows him to make that trip without stopping. And for me, it's the same kind of thing. Now, Chris, I wasn't trying to contradict what you said, because I agree with you. I think an EREV is going to have to be the next step. I'm not sure why we started all electric. I'm glad we did. I won't go back. I don't even want an EREV. And if you can put enough power in a battery so that a small generator can maintain the truck driving, most of us don't even need to tow. If you put an F-150, say, with a 40 kilowatt battery in it and about 100 kilowatt generator just to keep that battery hot, now you've allowed the guy to run on a pretty small engine, pretty small battery. So that's going to help keep costs down and drive a long way on a trip. Whereas at home, he's just running off battery. Every 40 kilowatts will get you at 2 miles per kilo, get you 80 miles. Most of us are running 80 miles per day. You know, How many, for those of you listening, how much do you really lose on your battery a day? Because mine's about 10% on my average daily commute.
Yeah. And see, I think that's where Ford has to balance, what does the data show versus what does the market want,
right?
Versus what can we make money on versus where are we going to be in our political climate then, right? There in tariffs and whatever else. And so it's so much, I think, to balance that they have so much to figure out about what direction they want to go. In what way does EREV make sense? Do they have some secret engine that they're working on now to be able to run a system like you're talking about, Martin, so that you don't have to throw, like Dodge, a whole V6 in there?
It's patented. And so I will bring up, I think you guys read my post this week, since we're talking about EREV. We successfully tested our generator. I say we were working on it, and Zach drove over 700 miles with a generator in the bed of the Lightning, charging while we were driving. The truck went from 1.8 miles per kilowatt hour to 2.3. He gained 50, 60 miles of range on each run, and it was less than a gallon of gasoline. So it was pretty cheap to operate, and I was surprised by that. The downside is the noise. So what we need, the challenge that Jack and I have right now to work through, is figuring out how to get the generator not noisy. So if you think about the auto manufacturers, everything they have done in cars from, say, 1980 to 2020 to make a Honda Accord or a Ford Edge or a Chevy Equinox gas quiet in the cabin, we're light years of where we were ahead. So they've done so much NVH work and so much work to get these cars efficient and balanced where you don't feel the vibration. For Zach and I to throw that generator in the bed and just complain that it's loud, which the first day I was complaining it was loud. That's like saying the Model T is noisy. I mean, it's going to be. It's the first iteration. So there's a lot more work to be done. But I think something like the Scout's going to do, to put a generator back in the back, especially if they did that rotary engine that they had.
Very curious about the driving dynamics sitting behind the rear axle.
Yeah.
But yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, you need a way to generate energy that doesn't create vibration and doesn't create the environment that takes away from what those of us that have driven a Lightning or a Rivian or a Tesla experience and we love. And I think this test was a huge step. It's the first of its kind that I know of that somebody has driven while charging a Lightning. And Zach, from an engine, he's our software engineer. I'm more the mechanical guy. And for him to crack that and be able to make that work, awesome. You did a great job. And so we're going to continue pushing that. For me, I started looking at cost versus benefit. And I'm going to go to the GMC at some point. I got to be able to afford it. I'm fighting the same battle that everybody else is. The truck's still $80,000 and I'm going to build one for 60. You know, that's a tough pill to swallow for everybody that's not rich or got disposable money or business income. So the next truck is, I need a lot of generator. And the most you're going to get out of a Lightning is the 19.2 kilowatts, because that's all the dual onboard chargers can put out. Then if you don't do that, then you're looking at a DC generator to dump power directly into the battery, so you can get it up to like 30 or 40 kilowatts. Now we're talking about a lot of cost. We're talking a lot of complexity, and you're still fighting the noise. So dual path for me. I'm going to move to the GMC for the shop truck and see how it is. I may be back in a Lightning in 3 months once I drive it, because I love the Lightning. You guys know, that's my whole logo is built around this. My heart is right there, but I want to be able to go farther and get more done. My trip to Florida should have been 2 days. It was 4. My trip to Joe's truck was 4 days or 6 days. It should have been 3. It just takes so long when you're towing. And I think the E-Rev is going to cure that range anxiety, but it's going to come at a cost. And I think that is why Ram Charger has been delayed and delayed and delayed, and it's not out, because they've figured it out. They're on the streets testing them now. There's been lots of spy shots. I don't know if you guys have seen them. I'm on several of the Ram Charger groups. They're out driving them around. They're testing them. And I think they're going to have to figure out how to get the cost down. And I expect that truck to be $100,000. The tungsten version will be $100,000.
Nobody's buying those cars though, man. That's the thing.
No, that's the problem. They're going to sell just like the Cybertruck is.
Yeah. But now I'm curious. I think one of the curious ones will be Scout. Because
if it's $50,000, it will be.
Scout had, I think it was 2/3 were the E-Rev, and only 1/3 was the pure battery electric,
which is crazy. That just tells you, people are like, I saw people say before that went, why are they even considering an E-Rev? That's crazy. Why would they do that? Nobody will buy that. Everybody will go for the BEV. And
we're in a bubble, man.
Scout came out, and they're like 2/3 of our 66.6% of our orders were E-Rev or whatever it was. It's like it was the most popular by far.
Yeah, people are scared of that limited. I ordered a BEV. I have a Scout.
They see 500 miles of range versus 350, and they're like, "Oh, that sounds great."
Yeah.
But I'm curious.
No other truck and SUV is offering 500 miles of range other than Silverado. But again, you're talking 60, 70, 80. Yeah, and Scouts saying as of now 50, but we'll see. But
I think it's easy to forget that the McDonald's cheeseburger is like the best selling cheeseburger in the world, and it's unremarkable in every way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's and we're over here wanting our Angus beef burger fully loaded with bacon, right? That's what we want. And I think
Wagyu
for a minute,
hand rub burger, and we wanted it at the McDonald's price.
right. And so I think it's going to be interesting, because we're going to turn around and they're going to be like, these knuckleheads on X and YouTube, this isn't our audience, man. They're creating content, they're getting clicks, they're getting excitement, but that's not, man. We are the dude, we are the runway models with the ridiculous outfits.
Well,
nobody's buying this.
So we're trying to show what this stuff can do.
Right.
You guys are driving. Chris, you drove across country. Jace, you drive all over, up to Ford all the time. You're showing what electric can do.
Yeah.
In probably an unrealistic situation for most of us. And then you back it down to normal everyday life and think, oh, well, I could probably do that in my everyday life. So for me, I'm fighting the exact same battle that Ford is, where I have to sell this stuff the same as they do. My first Lightning, I drove 70,000 miles in that truck and sold it for $35,000, and I had 60 in it. It's the same situation that everybody else who bought Lightnings was, just a notch down. I lost the same amount of money that everybody else who paid $80,000 or $89,000 for their Lariats did. And so I have to do the same thing. And I can't, I'm really starting to take a look at what sells. I had a good conversation with a friend of mine tonight about the GMC. And me wanting to buy one, and you're $60,000. You want to pay that? That doesn't make any money. You've done this before. He said, you made more money on that Model S Tesla than you did on your Lightning, and I only had $8,000 in it. So it's
I think it'll be interesting. They need to sell 100,000 plus of whatever it is that they're going to be building, and that's going to be great for the movement. And I think it's going to be disappointing for us and all the people that listen to us and people like us, because it's not going to be exciting for people that already own trucks like we own, or Model Ys or Model
No, I
S's
think
and
you're right.
X's.
I do think
you
we
wanna-
may see some fun manufacturing stuff though. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
Something
yeah.
at least that is not typical of Ford. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I think that is where we'll kind
Casting.
of have to probably find our excitement, and hopefully, to be completely honest, again, the price. They've hammered it home. So
Yeah,
I
if
do
they
think
can come out
25
with
is.
a-
I think
they can come
25
out
is
with a new
unrealistic.
Bronco with a really small engine in the front, a pretty decent sized battery, and put it for $39,995. I mean, how many Bronco Sports did they sell? I mean,
God, it's crazy, dude.
oh my
It's
gosh,
crazy.
it's like a Jeep for those
Ma-
guys. Those guys go after the Broncos like the Jeep guys go after their Jeeps.
And it's underpowered. The Bronco Sport is
but
underpowered.
you know what? You don't need a 4-second 0 to 60 for the mom to take her kids to soccer. You need that car to run. It needs to be 5-6 seconds 0 to 60. It needs to have a 300-mile range and charge at home pretty good. And if she has to DC fast charge it, I got to tell you, the experience charging a Tesla on the road, I don't think it's just the plug. It's
no.
When you're charging your mindset changes when you're road tripping a Tesla. And I'm not knocking Ford or anybody else. You got to get out an app. You don't just
it's just basic fragmentation. Yeah, it's just the basic of the name of the game. There's no way that Tesla charging on a Tesla network is going to charge better than anything else. Consistent wise.
If you could get a Bronco that would charge on the Tesla network with a NACS connector and it's all plug and charge, just plug it in and it works every time. That's a competition to the Y. That's competition.
What we've heard though is even if you throw a NACS connector in though, you can still only use V3s and V4s.
Well, and that's another problem.
I just wish that could be solved, because that's a huge, we go up to northern Michigan and there is no Tesla version 3 or version 4 north of the middle of the state. The only one is all the way to the Mackinac Bridge, and it's frustrating because it takes the Tesla network completely out for us. It's I just wish that we could solve. And there's tons of V2s, tons of them.
We took that trip from California. On our way back down, we crossed the Sierra Nevadas west of San Francisco and drove down the eastern slope. And we drove through Death Valley and all there. And I kept paying attention to the silver handle on all those chargers. That silver handle on a Tesla charger tells you it's a 150. Yeah. I didn't care because I wasn't on a fast charging Tesla. I was on that Model S that charged 120 kilowatt. But I got to tell you, there was some comfort in knowing it didn't matter where I stopped. Any of them was going to work, and they were all going to work. And every time I plugged in, it worked. I do think they need to figure out how to fix that. I don't know if that's a Tesla limitation trying to keep some sort of club for theirs.
They say protocol. It's all down to the...
Yeah, V2 doesn't support CCS, and they can't change out the hardware. They'd have to switch out
ISO 1151.
Right. Okay, Ford, then change the hardware. Change the hardware in the car like the Tesla is.
It would just be. They wouldn't do that. It would just, because then it wouldn't. Yeah, it'd just be too messy. Tesla will eventually switch them out with V4s,
and that's exactly what Tesla said. We're just going to replace them, and
they're wanting to do that.
Unfortunately, that just doesn't seem to be the case. They're just not doing it. That's
not yet. I mean, they're 150 stuck for all the new cars, right? You don't want to charge a Y, a 3, any of those that can do 200 some to 400 some kilowatts. The Cybertruck can do.
It's not really, honestly though. The Y curve is so bad that it's not like it even makes that big a difference, unless you're sitting between the low, the first 30 to 40%. If most people again aren't charging that way. They're charging.
I pulled in an S and charged the same time as the Y right beside me, and my S was 10 years old. I mean, it was
lightning. I said this. I used to say this, and people would. I mean, I'm nobody, so nobody's listening to me. But I'm I would tell people I'm charging every bit as fast as the Y, and I've got. And then Brandon Flash has done this now a couple of times with his wife, where they will drive with the Y and the Lightning, and the Lightning's got a bigger battery, it's less efficient, but because it does that 180, 190 kilowatts and it holds it for so long that if you're not charger hopping, if you're not sitting in the fat part of the curb hopping every hour and a half, if you're actually going to 80% and doing it like most people would, the Y and the Lightning charge the same.
I got to be honest, guys.
He uses a lot more, but it's in terms
the
of
one thing
the two of them can road trip right side by side to the exact same chargers, the exact same distances.
That charge port location is a pain in the butt if you're not. I hope whatever they do, the charge port is on the left rear or the right front.
With the cheap ones, I think it absolutely will be. I think with the affordable,
not something that's going to tow, something that you're just commuting.
100%, I think it will be. Yeah,
it needs to be, because that's one of the downsides. That's the biggest downside that I'm going to have. You talk about the GMC and the downsides it has. Cost.
You might need an extender.
Yeah, I mean you do, and so with the GMC, they put it in the right spot if you're never going to tow. But for me, it makes no sense because that's the tow king. It makes me unhook for sure on most chargers, and with the Lightning, I don't have to unhook hardly. We're about to take this Lightning to Canada in 2.5 weeks if I get it done. I'm going to charge 9 times going up and 9 times coming back. And I bet you I unhook once or twice that entire trip, just because of the location and the Tesla networks. I'm charging it. I'm not going in the middle of Minneapolis. I'm not charging in the middle of Des Moines. I'll hit those ones outside. There's usually enough chargers. You can hit that install and kind of block, a little bit of the lane. That's the right move on the big trucks. But I hope on these cars, they put it on the right spot, in the right rear or the left rear or the right front. That needs to be there.
You have to hope that Ioniq keeps expanding, because they've got the nice chargers, they've got the pull-throughs, they've got,
that's my thing. I don't really think I don't think charge port location should be anywhere. I just think that every single DC fast charging station should be able to accommodate wherever the hell you put the port. That's just my, long term.
Gas stations are that way, right?
Exactly. Gas stations are that way. I think long term that needs to be our goal. No matter where you put it, the charge station should be able to, to reach, whether it's a truck, a car, whatever. I see people who are like, well, let's standardize the port location. I'm like, no, let's standardize pull through charging, in my opinion.
It's interesting. James was experiencing through South Dakota and back, either the supercharger or the Lightning kept overheating.
The supercharger, I'm sure it's been a huge issue right now.
65 kilowatts.
You switch to EA, which has liquid cooled cables, and they don't overheat.
Yeah, I'll report that back on this trip. We plan to run Tesla, and I'm, because of the one reason, and everybody knows, it's the cost. It's cheaper.
Yeah.
45 cents in my area in the Midwest, 45 cents on a EA with the plan, and 37 cents on Tesla in my area. Mm-hmm. That adds up on a big trip. You're talking 10-20%. I got to do it, but I've heard a lot of people say recently, I'm getting better speeds out of EA. They're getting the 190s, and where you're not seeing it on Tesla.
This summer has been particularly bad for Tesla. I'm seeing everybody report it too. People like Robert, from Florida is reported. There's Brandon Flash is reporting it. Test Calendar is reporting it big time in his trips, which he's not even really going that far south. You're talking up here in New York, Ohio, where, it might touch 90, but I mean, not like down, by you guys, you get some really hot temps, and
over 100 right now.
I've never seen anything like that with the Tesla supercharger network. It's shocking. I don't think, the funny part is, I don't think Tesla drivers are seeing it as much, because like you said, Chris, the curve is not that great. So they're you see the non-Tesla drivers are like, what the heck? I go on EA, and it's night and day. Tesla drivers aren't using EA for the most part, so they don't see the difference. But you jump on an EA and it's hanging out at 190 versus jumping on a Tesla supercharger, and it's derating to, like you said, 65% or 65 kilowatt, excuse me.
The last trip we had to Louisiana, I ran a Tesla most of the time, and I never saw over about 175, maybe touch 180 in a truck that I've seen 190 on Tesla on EA before. And the EA stations are considerably better right now. I think that's going to change, but that you're right. That's a fact.
But it's totally flip-flopped. It's just crazy.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Joel, EV Geek, chiming in, saying that Sebastian was overheating at Tesla charging.
That's crazy,
of all things, which is crazy. I don't know. That's just so weird. It's weird. There's in fact, EV Geek and I just recently tested the exact same adapter, which is the EV base adapter. It looks exactly like the Tesla adapter, dead on.
I have one to test too. They sent me one too.
I sent it out to everybody.
I tested it. I want to go ahead and release that. Chris, I saw your video. I did test it. I didn't post anything or record it because I left my freaking temp gun at home, and I'm not going to put out a video that doesn't have a temp gun.
Yeah.
But I plugged in the Mach-E at 10%. I saw 163 on the EV base. I immediately unplugged it, plugged in the Ford Electron one because that's the approved one, and saw 163. And then I unplugged the Ford, plugged the EV base back in, and it held 163 for about 6 or 7 minutes, and then it tapered down. So that was exactly a good adapter. I think I'm a little bit nervous putting my name on these adapters that are aftermarket without taking them apart and looking at the hardware.
Did you see Braden Flash's whole honcho thing?
Oh yeah. So it's funny because they were that same person was talking to me about testing their adapter, and I reached out to Brandon and I was like, dude, are you talking to this guy? And he's like, yeah, that's the guy. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Did you also see, speaking of Mr. Flash, that he keeps his adapter in his portable cooler?
Yes.
While he's road tripping.
So it doesn't, in theory, that should not make a difference with the Tesla thing anymore, because that's that's the Kyle Connor trick of wrapping the thing in a cold rag.
Right. You guys, that we can't be doing that. That is tricking out that, and it's going to overheat something else. You're making the link in the chain move to something else weaker.
I would think that too, but he's pretty staunch about the safety and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
And Chris, getting the bad reputation from all the
Chris, did you read the EV bases their information? So that EV base will derate to 50% at 180 degrees, and at 190 it'll shut off.
Yeah, I didn't come anywhere near that though. No, when I measured the temperature.
That's my point. I don't want my adapter to ever hit 170, and if it's at 170, I want it to derate, and they aren't doing that. So that scares me a little bit about that adapter, that they're holding that temperature so far. To me, 145, 150, you need to derate it, and then at 160, you ought to shut it off.
That's within spec though of that UL test that they do. That's where those numbers come from. Because I started looking into that UL stuff, and I mentioned on all my videos, I have a clip that I'm using the same.
Right. Hold on. There's no adapter UL rated.
There's one.
Amphenol, but it's not out
for sale. Yeah. So I talk about this on all the videos that I took and shot a section of all of my videos. And I just put that at the end of all my videos. I'm doing like 4 adapter tests, and it talks about the UL that Amphenol is the only one that's passed it, and that it talks about like that they're doing it on non-liquid cooled cables, and you can't really get 500 amps out of it. Nobody's going to be able to certify it. And there's a bunch of, Joel was just talking about how they'll list these different UL listings. Yeah, it's going to be on the plastic or the fire rating or any of these things. Let me just finish my thought though.
Go ahead.
And so I think with these, when I was testing it, I'm not worried about where the sensor kicks in, because it's not coming anywhere near those temperatures. And those temperatures are set by that UL listing for the sensor to kick in. That's where they're guided by. But if it comes anywhere near that, you've got a problem. I mean, because I wasn't getting any kind of numbers like that. I'm curious because that adapter, I think it's made in the same damn thing factory. I'm even curious if it's, because Ford's not using them anymore. So I'm wondering if it's
not at all either. Not at all. Like they're not using.
They are absolutely different. I compared those sitting side by side. The Tesla one, there are a lot of little differences.
Little differences. Like one is matte and one is gloss. One has a bigger button, one's smaller. One has a latch that's the latch has a more firm feel to it. But those could just be different modifications that they've done after making so many of them. Like I really wonder if it's the same factory, because when Ford stopped buying them,
Tesla had. That's exactly who would Tesla start selling them to, because Ford stopped buying them. So, and supposedly those were being made at the Tesla factory in Buffalo.
No, but nobody else is buying these, like the Tesla ones anymore, right? Like everyone that I see come out is Electron or a version that's not.
Sucks. It's not ergonomic.
Nobody's looks like the Tesla one now.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true.
I mean, it's about as ergonomic as, you know, a left-handed screwdriver if you're right-handed.
Yeah.
I just, the Ford one, the A to Z is my favorite still because of the one button. The Ford one is my second favorite because it has two buttons and they're pretty easy. But both of those are equivalent. I would pick up either one of those two and use them.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, kind of going back to the whole thing about the overheating, is I went to the charger I go to all the time for my testing, which is right by Lucid, literally around the corner from Lucid. And for whatever reason, it kept derating. Like, and it wasn't the adapter, because I went to a totally different supercharger. I was like, I tried twice, and I couldn't get it to hold the whole curve. Like, it would go up to the 500 amps like it was supposed to, but then it would go way down below 120, like faster than it should. So I took it to a whole different charger and finally got it to do the entire curve the way I wanted to. But it's, you know, these adapters, man, it's tough to test them, and it's even tougher if the Tesla supercharger doesn't hold.
Right.
Joel prefers the Electron just because.
Yeah. I mean, it's an approved adapter, so why not?
It is. It's an approved adapter. The Tesla one is approved adapter. The Ford Electron version,
I got to be honest,
is approved adapter.
A to Z should be approved. As much user testing has been on out there, there's so many people with those that's tested and not have problems.
It's
but
a great adapter.
It is not.
Yep. The A to Z is my personal favorite. It's also the only one I think that is a solid piece that isn't wrapped in plastic. Like, everything else has the adapter in the middle and then it's wrapped in some type of plastic. I think A to Z is the only one that's a solid piece of whatever that material is without anything wrapped around it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, there's a ton of stuff, like, you know, the stuff Brandon was testing from Hanshaw. That thing was you just unplug that thing mid-charge and it wouldn't. There was no switch. There was no anything.
If you could have got me some information on that Lightning you saw overseas, we don't need an adapter if I just put a NAC connector in the passenger side.
We got you a VIN number from.
I'm just giving you a hard time. I did try to look it up. They didn't show anything through that VIN number through my Ford repair site. It kept showing me the left-hand adapter and CCS. It's kind of a generic, but I do still want to get my hands on a right-hand side connector and try to play with that on a truck. I would love it to have a right-hand connector for daily use that if I'm not towing, that you can pull in, like, you're not blocking anything. And
it's going to some third party through Germany getting retrofitted, and Ford probably has nothing to do with the inventory or the parts. Or I'd be curious if we had like a Norwegian
I bet they do.
Ford dealer.
I wish I remember what they told us.
That's a warranty if they don't.
They told us some clues when we were there, but I can't remember it all. But I remember you're correct. It did go through Germany, but I can't remember exactly what the process was. But they kind of gave us the rundown, if I'm not mistaken.
So we need to figure this out. So that'll be another video we do. Is
you got to build one.
I have some friends at Ford Norway. I could probably ask.
Yeah, we got to get Martin. You have to have one Lightning that you rebuild with it on the right-hand side, just for general purposes. That just
I would do it on my truck.
Yeah. That would be epic. That would be super cool.
That would be.
Even if I got to 3D print the door and make it, generic on the door, I whatever.
Yeah.
I think you can find. Yeah. I see what you're saying. You got to be able to find that stuff. I'm sure it's out there.
Sure, it's out there. I didn't have time to push and look too hard, with everything I've got going right now. So we've got this truck we're trying to get ready for Canada. And I've got about 5 things that I'm trying to do. Chris, you asked me the other day, what all am I doing to this one? Well, basic stuff. We did we're going to do the painted grill. The lid emblem is here, and I'm going to do it again. I still like that. I still think that is a good way to go. And I'm going to modify the harness. There was a question that the new harnesses were different on the site, so I'm going to have to validate that. I don't.
The new harness on the. Which new harness?
Yeah, there was a question on the forums that they said that the new harnesses were wired different.
Interesting.
And I had another question on and Josh, if you're listening, go out in the truck that you have, that it was mine, and test it. Does the emblem go off on high beams? Now,
I never experienced that.
Have you ever looked?
Oh, but mine wasn't wired to the headlights the way yours was.
But even then, I've wired 2 of these, Joe's truck in Florida and Josh's truck with that, and even on the truck that she did at Nikki's I don't know. I couldn't answer the question. Does the LED emblem turn off on high beams? I didn't test it for that. I just tested it for the headlights coming on, because when you turn them on in the driveway, they automatically come on low beams. So I'll have to do some testing on that to find out. But we're going to do that. We're going to do the LED emblem, painting the grill. Might not get that done before I go on this first trip, which is okay, because as we know, they tend to chip off. I found out something when I did Josh's truck, that the gray argent on our grills on Lariats and down, that's not plastic. That's not the color of the plastic. That is a coating. It's not the same coating that the platinums have, where you guys have either a paint. I think it's a paint. But when I was
an ion something on the
so I put out a video like a year or two ago about how to prep and paint your grill black, and I use an adhesion promoter on that because I thought that was a plastic. My mistake that it's not a plastic, it's a coating. So I did that on Josh's grill when I shot base coat, a different brand of base coat. It lifted. It wrinkled all the paint. And when I was taking and peeling that off in strips, the grill's white, like a cream white. That's the color of our grills, and they coat them. So Josh has the only
that makes sense, because that's what the color of the platinum grill is when they flake off.
Yeah.
And I have a rock chip on mine that it's it's cream white.
So,
matches the light bar.
Get you some touch-up paint. Just keep touching it up so it doesn't go worse. But that's the thing with those grills. So I ended up taking Josh's grill all the way down to bare adhesion, promote, paint. He's got probably the best adhesion grill in the country now. So what the next thing, Chris, is we're going to do is we're going to go to that rotary shifter. And I know we've touched on that before on the podcast, and I want to address, yes, you can do it. The Bronco one is okay to use. The Maverick's okay to use. A lot of guys aren't using the Mach-E. I think there's something with it, but I love the shifter. We've talked about this. I love laying my hand on the big Ford shifter, but it's to the point where I miss my cup holders. I really want to figure out how to put it back up on the column, and that can be done. It's going to take more work, but
ooh, man, how epic would your truck be if you had a column shifter and a right-hand charger, dude? You would have the most
and full
epic
cup holders
truck ever.
Yeah, so we're at least going to do the rotary dial.
Here's what I don't get about the shifter. Where did this come from? I had not heard about shifter problems until this last year.
Yeah, they have a manufacturing issue with it.
Was it not a 22, 23 thing? Was it only 24 and after?
No, it came up after.
So
there's been some that went bad in 2022s and 2023s. I mean, it's not like it didn't happen, but
it's not specific to Lightning. This has happened in F-150s too. So I'm not doing it for that. If I have a shifter go bad, I'll just replace it. I don't care. I'm doing it because I want another cup holder, and I get that one right in front of it. I don't use that pocket for anything.
The Lightning doesn't have nearly enough cup holders.
No.
Yeah, right.
No, I mean, you think about a road trip having 2 cup holders. I would love to have 4 in my Super Duty. That's what I miss. So I'm not going to love the shifter. I know a lot of people, even on the forums, have said they don't love the dial. I'm sure I'm not going to love it just because you don't get that tactile feel. You don't have a place to rest your hand, and I may come home and rip that thing right out. But shout out to Dusty. He's on the group, but he's one of the sellers on Etsy that has a 3D printer and prints these and sells them. I actually worked with him, and we developed a new 3D printed shifter console that is a one piece for a cup holder. The ones he has now kind of have a place for your phone, and then you can slip in a cup holder. And I worked with him, and he developed one. I've got the prototype, so we're gonna put the prototype in my truck and see what we can do. I printed one myself. There's a couple of 3D websites you can download this stuff from. Thingiverse is one. I printed one myself here. It looks good. Dusty's is better. I mean, it really is, but just the shape and the form and stuff, it fits really well. So I'll video that, putting that in, but they literally are pop your console apart, plug it in, and put it back together. I mean, it is a really simple install. So I think a lot of guys are doing this proactively because they don't want to have shifter problems. I understand that. It doesn't void your warranty because it's a Ford part. Now, if you take it in, they might mess with you about it if it did something specifically. If you didn't get it, you pinched a wire, or you didn't get it plugged in correctly, or a lot of guys that put them in say, if my truck has to go back to the dealer, I'm going to pop the other shifter back in it. which is probably smart. I mean, honestly. So anyway, that's the one thing that we're going to do that I think is going to be a different experience for me. It actually will change the way I feel about the truck when I'm interacting with it every day. Every day, like going to commuting, Jace, you probably know that you don't charge your truck on a DC fast charger every day. So it's not something that bugs you. But if you were in the bed of it every day doing your job, how that tonneau cover or topper or whatever interacted with you is something that would definitely. So I'm a little bit worried that I'm not going to like rolling that shifter around all the time because I want this for road trips. So we'll see how this goes. I'll report back to you guys what my opinion is after this road trip with that shifter.
Yeah, it should be fun.
I'm gonna stick with my. I like like you said. I like the feel of it. The column shifter is more interesting to me than the rotary, but it's,
And I had a conversation with Dusty about that. I wanted to do a column shifter, and they're all drive-by-wire now, so I think I can make it work. He is going to 3D print 2 more cup holders that have those little tabs in it, so you could actually have quad cup holders in a Lightning when we figure this out. That would be interesting to me with a column shifter. Even if Ford would go to the digital stock like they did on the Mach-E, I don't hate that. I like that, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap it up, let's talk about my awesome trip to Europe, because that was a lot of fun.
I want to hear all about this.
Yeah, that was an eye opener, man. It was so I went out and spent some time in first off Amsterdam, and that was incredible because just from aside from the awesomeness of being in Amsterdam, just the amount of EVs that I saw there. Again, EV trucks, EV buses, EVs everywhere. The cool street side parking I thought was amazing. That to me was what I really took away, was how much I liked that, how frequently I saw places for people to plug in.
Chris, were you the one that was talking about the street side plug-in where you had to bring your own cord?
Yeah. So they all bring their own cords. They're all 200 volt plus.
That's
outlets.
An interesting concept.
Yeah, and it was everywhere we went. We went to like just local grocery stores, and there'd be these places you could just plug right in. You bring your own cord, and it was so convenient. And they were located on the street, like right along the canals. There would be these roads that were 800 years old, cobblestones, and they had installed posts specific for electric charging. I'm
sure that makes the aesthetics of the streets much cleaner and nicer.
It was. There was this kind of like just little posts that you wouldn't even see or stand out in any way. There wasn't these cables hanging all over the place. I did a couple different videos. They're all shorts. I did a bunch of different shorts, kind of my trip and my thing. And then out of spec bits, I did a video of visiting the Zeekr showroom in Amsterdam and going through the Zeekrs. And that was just a lot of fun to do. So that video just launched today on out of spec bits. And then there's one coming with William roaming Norway. The two of us got together and took the Zeekr 7X and took it on a trip through like the longest, deepest tunnel in the world. And we visited like 5 different charging stops, and everything from Alpatronic 400s to the 50 kilowatt versions to the plugins that we talked about. We kind of show them all.
Chris, was that Zeekr the golden battery one?
No, it was not the golden, but it was capable of 400 kilowatts. I think we on the first Alpatronic, we got it up to like 360 or something. Wow. It didn't quite get to 400, but that was remarkable to charge it up just at that kind of speed and see it hold its charge curve that deep, and to see just all that. We went at some point, we go to a grocery store and we go through the parking lot and we just start calling off all the different EVs that are there. It was pretty cool. It was a really great experience. It was really
there is much higher,
much higher. And it makes sense as we were driving through. For example, there was at one point I'm in the Zeekr, and William had to warn me about the speed cameras, because I'm just ripping through this tunnel, man. And I don't know the metric system. I'm on, I barely pay attention to miles per hour. And so I literally had to pull over and get like into a right-hand lane and get behind a slower car to keep myself from like ripping through this tunnel. Now, the good news is the speed cameras work on an average. So it takes it measures you at different points, and if your average speed is above a certain amount, then it will take a shot of you and send you a ticket, which would have gone to Zeker. So my apologies, Zeker, if Zeker Europe gets a speeding ticket, it's because of me going through that tunnel. But I think he warned me soon enough that I got the average back down again. But
it's funny you mentioned that, because the Lightning does have an ability to change the kilometers per hour on the dash and show both. I have to do that when I go to Canada, because I can't do the metric system on the road either. So
yeah, and so that was just a lot of fun. But the roads there are like, all the roads are not asphalt. I mean, there's a lot of the roads are curvy roads through mountains. They're a lot of like stone roads, and it's made for all the rain and being able to drain things away, and easy to maintain, to pull out some stones and pop some new ones in. Lots of like 1 and 2 lane highways that are, slow relative to what we're not, nobody's ripping 80 miles an hour. It's not the Autobahn, in the whole country. You can traverse the entire country of Norway, in a day. And, with the trip across, it took me 4 days to get from Tennessee to California. And that was, you could drive the entire length of Texas or California, and it would be shorter than driving through Norway. So in fact, the Lightning, that they don't even sell the extended range Lightning in Norway because it's not necessary. The combination of the speeds and the roads and how much you would travel, you don't need the extended range Lightning even in Norway. Now, it is fascinating when I looked at the prices of the Lightning. It is 1 million kroner, which is the equivalent of $100,000 for the standard range Lightning.
That's that's what it was when it launched too, when we were there, and it hasn't changed. Yeah.
So there'll be a video coming out on another out of spec bits with William and myself going through and driving the Zeker and talking about just the differences in, noticing in Europe and the charging and all the different amount of vehicles and, the trucks and everything about driving there was really interesting. And then EV aside, the train system, I mean, you could, we just decided one day, my wife and family were like, oh, we're here in Europe, let's go to another country. And one thought was we were just going to hop on a train, and in 2 hours we'd be in Paris. And this was on a Sunday, so getting to Paris wasn't the problem. The problem was there was no way to get back. Like, all the trains that were coming back were all sold out. Because all those people coming back home on a Sunday night that already bought out all the trains. So we could get to Paris, but we couldn't get back. So instead we went to Antwerp, Belgium, and we took the train there, and we had lunch, and there was literally this this zoo that had been there for hundreds of years. And it's a great zoo was there. And we went to this chocolate place and went through the history of chocolate, bought a bunch of chocolate. And again, everywhere we were looking, electric vehicles and diamonds are apparently what makes up Antwerp. But it was just that whole ability to just jump into a car, and like suddenly we could have been taking trains to England, to Germany, anywhere, and rented an electric vehicle. I met so many people that were just driving. They'd flown out there and they were just renting electric vehicles and driving them all over the place. Lots of campers, lots of towing, lots of wagons. Wagons and hatchbacks are a huge thing in Europe. Everywhere I was looking, there were tons. There was the Ford, I want to say the Ford Escape, but it was a station wagon. Lots of station wagons out there.
They have the diesel Ranger over there. That would have been cool to take a ride in one.
Yeah, I think everything about Europe was just a different feel, and it was just, it wasn't the politics of it. It was just about the technology. There was a lot of like windmills and hydro and cheap electricity that was, there's parts of our country that have the cheap 9 and 20 cent electricity. Out here in California, I don't ever see it, but
2.9.
I think we're at 10 cents here.
That's incredible.
10 cents or 12 cents, something like that.
And see, that's where Ford is just, if Ford can deliver a cheap electric affordable vehicle and you can charge it for 10 cents. I mean, Joel in Arkansas, you got,
and we don't even charge at home because our office added chargers. So we don't even, we barely use it. It's now, that wasn't the case before, but still, I mean, people are like, oh, my electricity bill tripled. We're like, I don't see that.
Yeah, I had mine's went up. Mine's $400 a month now, and it was like $200, but that's all right. We got 2 electric cars, but Pat's got this deal in Florida for Florida Power and Light on his Silverado that $39 a month, unlimited.
I've seen that
unlimited
one.
power.
That's crazy
For charging. Yeah, he can't. He said I can't go back.
Enjoy that while you can, because one day that will have to go away.
Yep.
There's just no way that can continue forever. But it's while you've got it, it's just I do think that's the problem, is that these things are no brainers, except that nobody can pay $50,000 to $80,000 for a vehicle. Not nobody, obviously, because there's people doing it. But
it's like we did, Chris.
Yeah, we did it. But
yeah, exactly. No, it's so true.
The mass market.
Especially though, like it's got to match, like, and this is, I think, the conversation that Ford's having. Like, if in general older folk are not willing to switch to EV, then we can't. There's got to be a pivot, right? We have to sell cheaper vehicles to the 25, the 30, the 35-year-olds. They've got to sell that to, frankly, my age. And I've said time and time again, I don't have a single friend looking at an EV. I don't have a single one. I've got friends who have a hybrid Escape. That's about as close as, that you'll get, but they bought that thing for like 35.
And how many of our parents are looking at an EV? My parents don't have a lot of money.
Not mine.
My mom has a 430,000 mile Lincoln Navigator. She doesn't go anywhere. She's a prime Model X, Model S. The Mach-E's still a little expensive, but I told her I could build you a Model S for like $8,000, and she's like, "I'm not driving electric." And that was the end of the conversation. Not let me be curious about it. Just I'm not driving electric.
Yeah, there's a lot of that still has to, and think about the people too that live in apartments and stuff like that, so that don't have access to charging. So there's a lot that we have to figure out, but I do think, like, I do need better friends. That's true. But at least friends that get it, they're like, "What's this EV crap?" Oh man, I've tried too. I've tried
bringing the fire.
I've tried, but. And I have some that are interested in it, but real life, good friends, they're just that and they see all of the stuff that I do, right? They see our life. They see that, our trucks can run our house, and they do think this stuff is cool. They do, but they're just not there yet. They're putting additions on their house before they're worrying about installing an EV charger. Do you know what I mean? There's just certain barriers that we're going to have to get over for a lot of people. And the politics doesn't help, right? And the loss of the tax credit's not going to help. And, it's going to, in the fact that our government, even maybe a little bit with the Biden administration, of course, and the NEVI stuff, but like, it's nothing like Norway. It's nothing like Norway, where the government is subsidizing the use, giving true, huge tax credits to not only consumers, but also to businesses to transition to electric. And that's not what's happening here.
And the vehicles I saw out there was Neo, there was Skoda, there was BYD, Zeekr, and even though Zeekr is kind of on the higher end, there's a Zeekr X that was entirely affordable at 35,000 euros. There was there's a bunch of, what's the French company, Jace? I can't remember there's a French company that why am I drawing a blank on them? Saw a bunch of Jaguar I-Paces that looked really cool.
Have either one of you driven a BYD Shark or been around them yet?
No, I'd love to. Although I've heard bad things about the Shark.
Pat did. He was in Mexico and drove one for a while, and he said his words to me is, "You need to drive one." And I'm like,
really?
Oh, really? Yeah, just they're not here, so I can't. But
you gotta go to Mexico, I guess.
I guess so.
Yeah, but again, I don't think the Shark is. That's not the. It's the Dolphin that you want to drive. It's the mass market,
because it's a hybrid, right?
Yeah, it is. But that's again, it's a bigger truck. It's more like a Ranger. It's that's
why. Because I
don't think what Ford is going to do on Monday is going to excite me.
But
I think it's
not for us.
I think it's
like
gonna
something that we're gonna buy. But again, it could be you're getting to a price point where it could be somebody's second, third vehicle.
Well, how many Nissan Leafs did they sell? And at what price?
A
How many
lot.
Chevy Bolts did they sell? At what price? That's what Ford really honestly needs to get in that market if they want to make the EVs profitable.
If they can be the best vehicle in that market, that would be something.
That's the thing. I know, Jace, you mentioned about how subsidizing they are in Norway, and I think that helps. But to me here, I don't think we need necessarily government subsidies. We need the best technology to win, and it has to be at that price. So if we can figure out how to make this stuff where we don't have to subsidize it, better materials, better, not necessarily rare earth and magnets and stuff for the motors and batteries, then it's going to make it where it doesn't need subsidies. It'll just happen, naturally.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I think that's sort of what will happen, right? Like, regardless, that Ford is going to start putting out, hopefully, and GM has sort of started doing that with the Equinox too, where it's just too good of a deal or too for the vehicle that you get for the price, right? That people are just say, you know what, even though it's an EV, it's a better vehicle than the ICE Equinox. It's newer, it's cheaper. And I'll figure out the charging later, right? And so, yeah, I think you're right. But I think too that we've done a lot of damage to the point where we may need some subsidy of some kind just to kind of get over the hump of what kind of has been created, right? And like you said though, the U.S. is a huge, and the U.S. is a huge country. We're comparing a Norway, which you said, Chris, is like the size of one state. So it's just, we have to put it all in perspective and remember that this country is massive. It's built off of oil,
California.
So many things.
Chris, you have more EVs in California than I've ever seen. And I didn't realize that until I went to visit you. It's like, wow, every other car is a Tesla out there. And I didn't realize that. But I'm not sure, Jace. It's going to be interesting to see after the tax credit ends what the Lightning sales do. I'm not sure it's going to change that much because they're all going to change for all electric cars. Right. If you were in the market for a new Lightning and the tax credit's just gone, are you going to go buy a gas truck now because there's not a tax credit? I doubt it. Well,
I think for us, I agree with you. I think for us, though, what it did do was that instead of buying an XLT, we could buy a Lariat. And now that might not be the case. So we might see more guys, instead of buying the Platinum, they might have to buy a Lariat. Instead of buying the Lariat, they might have to buy an XLT. So maybe we'll see more of that because we knew we were going to buy Lightnings, but we only were able to go up to Lariats the first time because of that $7,500.
Yeah. I think the curious thing for me is going to be, so Ford, it's just politically, it's going to be interesting because they've gotten rid of the CAFE fine, where if you don't hit your CAFE standard, so Ford doesn't need to sell as many right away, and it gets even less after 26 because in California, like Ford, Nissan, a whole bunch of others, they've signed an agreement in California that they have to sell a certain amount and hit certain standards through 2026. But after 26, between 26 and 28, if nothing changes, and we'll see in the midterm elections, does anything change? I'm curious if pushing T3 all the way out to 28 even has some political thoughts of, well, might the administration change? Might things come back? Is that more the year to look at? In the back of their mind, is it like, look, if we're not going to get tax incentives, these things are already not selling great. Let's move something that will sell.
Right.
Like
that. You're their
customer,
Chris. You're their customer because you're talking about upgrading your wife's car and you're looking at the what's the new one?
R2.
So
if they come out with a Bronco
R2
Sport
that's equivalent, that's cheap, that's an option for you.
100%. Yep.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna. Did you see my whole thing the other day? I put into Grok about emissions credits going away too, and how that will affect Ford and impact Tesla and all of that. It's a fascinating conversation because if those fall off as well, like you said, in the same vein, does Ford need to push vehicles if they're not going to be quote unquote fined? That's kind of how I would look at it. It's sort of a fine, if you will. And then the emissions credits picture is a whole separate thing, right? So if they're not paying Tesla billions anymore, what company is better set up? And that's kind of what I asked Gronk. I said, tell me what company, if you could take Ford and Tesla right now and view it under the guise of the emissions credits going away for Tesla, what company do you think is better set up? And it ran through the scenarios and it said, Ford is better set up for this environment because of the things that we've talked about for so long, the options of powertrain, that anybody can buy whatever they want when they look at a Ford. It's going to get even bigger, right, with the addition of EREV and whatever other hybrid technologies that they add.
Joel pointed out the credits will have a huge negative impact on Tesla.
It's going to be huge.
If not for the credits, they would not have made money last quarter. And that is, they're talking about coming out with a more affordable, probably a smaller Model Y. They're gonna lean to that Model Y, man, until they burn.
Which is crazy to me because it makes if of all the time right now, Tesla needs to be innovating when it comes to, in my opinion, their nameplates. They need a true $30,000 car, not a stripped down Model Y, not a stripped down Model 3, a Model 2. That's what they need, a true Model 2. And it's not coming. It's not coming.
While I was there in Norway, they actually stopped. They stopped selling the Model S and the Model X. They still have whatever's in inventory, but you can't order a new S or X in Europe. Yeah. They're going to lean heavily into the Model Y, and they're going to have the new longer wheelbase Model Y.
That's so funny because I guess it's culture differences. I'm not ever going to own a 3 or a Y. I will only own an X or an S because I like the car that much better.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. I mean, they're a juggernaut. They've got 3 huge plants. They've got really smart people. They got so much money and zero.
Do you see Dojo today though too?
No.
Just being shut down completely. The mass exodus from the team, and Dojo is completely shut down.
No. Really?
I swear to God. And that apparently those team members that left to start a rival AI or self-driving platform.
Interesting.
Look this up. This is crazy stuff. It just came out maybe 3 hours ago.
Interesting.
That's the board that they were making, right? That's their
Dojo was Dojo was XAI, I mean, I think it was Adam Jonas from Morgan Stanley in quarter two of 2023 valued the Dojo and XAI at like $625 billion. And if that no longer exists, that's crazy.
There's something else happening though if that goes that way. I mean,
that's weird.
It has to, but it's still a shocking pivot.
Yeah.
I don't know nearly enough about that area of the whole thing. Yeah.
It was like that Peter something guy. He was the one that was like in charge of the whole thing. He left, and then that kind of
bunch of people went with him. It's interesting. See, that's like the opposite of the whole like Ford getting Doug. So,
but this is Ford versus Tesla, right? This is like Tesla's MO. We saw it with the Tesla charging team. Elon fired them all, and I think for better for worse, that's kind of how his management style is, and I agree with you, Martin. There must be more to the story, that it wasn't working. Something wasn't happening that was supposed to be happening.
Was it that they left, or that they got fired? Or did
I believe they left. I read mass exodus.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So have to get on X and see what the talking heads are.
I know. And I'm sure there's been more news since. So,
yeah.
I'll let you guys fill me in. I have trucks to build.
Yeah. I am looking forward to that 100%. That's going to be fun.
Well, trucks to build and evidently a Mach-E to repair because we got hit in a parking lot the other night in the Mach-E.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I got an estimate. I'm fighting with the insurance company right now on that.
Oh, gosh.
They're trying to shortchange us. So more to come there.
Well, and by next week, we should know more on what's going on with Skunkworks, and we'll find Monday, we'll find out all the nitty gritty and all the details. Like I said, I will tell you, I've been very staunch that I don't expect any vehicles. The reason I say that is I have been told that from very important people. So we'll see exactly what happens. But I I've been told to not expect any vehicles. So that is not a product to reveal.
Lightning replacement.
Yeah, no. And it's funny because we saw a lot of, there's a lot of confusion because we saw a lot of news outlets confusing T3 with the midsize truck and Skunkworks confusing all of them. And, we kind of had this conversation last week and I was like, I'm telling you guys, like T3 is full size Tennessee. Kentucky is a totally different, thing. And I get it. It's confusing, but I think it was, in a way, I think it was good news that we heard today that T3 is not canceled, because that is genuinely what I was worried about. They canceled 3-row. I knew there's going to be something coming as far as like a next gen Lightning of some kind, right? But I was kind of worried that they were going to go in the E-Rev direction, and T3 was kind of just like, we're not talking about T3 anymore, because you haven't seen Ford mention T3 in, I don't know, 2 years.
Yeah.
It's been 2-3 years since they've literally, I think it was 2023, the last time that I could find on Ford's website where they mentioned T3 at all. So the fact that we heard today that it wasn't canceled, I'm actually really happy about that, because I was kind of worried that it was like going to be gone, especially with the push for profitability. But I do think it is still possible that we see it, some sort of E-Rev or something with that. But I think it's really fun. I think Ford's going to take their learnings that they learned from Skunkworks, and that gives Doug more time to kind of delve into T3 and kind of get it all lined up, and we'll see what happens. I'm excited for Monday. It's going to be fun.
Yep.
Yeah. We'll get to talk about that next week. So everybody stay tuned, like, subscribe.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
and I'm going to do my best to try to attend the next few weeks, guys. I know the week I'm in Canada, I will be out. That probably 2 weeks, because we leave on Thursday, and then I'm up there the next week. I don't think I'm going to have a bandwidth at the fish camp to do this. I'll try. So plan on me being out. And I apologize that I haven't been here for a while, and we haven't been here for a while. This is not the intention of the show, is to go fizzle out. We're trying to make it work, but life gets in the way sometimes. So bear with us. We will continue the fun episodes here.
Yep, absolutely. And I think I'm for sure good next Thursday, so we should be good. I definitely want to dive through and see kind of what we hear, what the tech is going to be, what the spec's going to be, if anything. I mean, I think we're really going to hear some stuff. Like I said, I don't think we're going to see nameplates. I think we might see some teasers though, and sort of, how Ford truly plans to build these EVs as cheaply as they say they will be able to. So it's going to be fascinating.
You guys might see me joining from the shop or in the middle of building a truck, but I'll do my best.
Yeah, if you can pop in for any amount of time, that'll be cool.
Yeah,
it'll be good to see where it all falls. Like I personally don't think they're going to be anywhere near 25,000. I don't even think they'll talk price myself.
I don't either. I don't think we'll hear price. I think
super
affordable is
43.9 for a small SUV E-Rev or battery. I think it'll sell.
I think if we look at Maverick and we look at Bronco, I was going to say this earlier. I think the blueprint is look at Bronco Sport, look at Maverick. That is, the blueprint is laid out for what I believe is coming for these next gen EVs. Think that plus even more, efficiency as far as the manufacturing goes. With the 3D printable, accessories that Ford has had with Maverick, lots of unibody storage, optimizing the size within the vehicle without making the vehicle, super large. I think that's exactly what we're going to see with these Skunkworks EVs.
And what Maverick has in common is that Maverick, Bronco 2, Escape are all the same underpinnings. Correct. So I think continuing that tradition will be big. That's where I think all the focus is going to be on, can you mass produce 100,000 plus vehicles affordable? I think that's
a family of vehicles is what Jim has said over and over again. I think that's where people thought, we're going to see the vehicles, because he said family of vehicles. But again, I think the fact that you haven't seen Ford post about this publicly to the consumers, they haven't hyped up a live stream link, that tells me we're focusing on manufacturing here. This is not meant really for the consumer. We were told about this during an earnings call. That should be your biggest clip.
Yeah, and any images you see out there are AI generated nonsense. So
Oh,
when
yeah.
you see,
No.
I've seen
know
a
how
couple different
many-
images floating around.
I did like that one, the yellow one. I thought that
It
was
looked
kind of
that was,
good.
that was pretty. But you know
It
how
looked-
many John Deere, Caterpillar, New Holland trucks I've seen?
But it
They're
just
all fake.
it's frustrating because these channels are out there given this AI image with the repetition of the 25,000, which I think actually comes from the Tesla idea of an affordable $25,000 Tesla being built in Mexico. That 25,000 number comes from Tesla. It's never been said by Ford. It's not. It's not. I think if they can hit 30, that's a good place to be.
But Tesla,
Of course,
Tesla said 40 on the Cybertruck, and that was never going to happen. I'll be surprised if Tesla actually releases a $25,000 anything.
yeah. I just start seeing these bullet pointed things about LiDAR
Tesla's not focused on cars anymore, apparently.
and robots. It's all robots.
Yeah,
I want one of those too. But anyway, more to come next week. That'll be
All right.
That'll be fun.
Can't wait.
Well, you take us home, Martin. You're the one that closes us out. Let's
Everybody, thanks for joining. We will have another show next week and hopefully some new information from Ford. So thanks everybody for joining. Have a good evening.
See you guys.
See you guys.
You got to press the button, Martin.
I don't have the button. You're gonna have to press the button.
I guess I have to press the button. All right, here we go.